Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Nightlight, everybody. So glad you could join us. We really appreciate your spending your time with us. We know time is a very precious commodity, and that you share it with us means a great deal. Want to thank Ken Quiet Hawk, first off, for his amazing intro. You can find him at nativestorytellers.com. He and his wife are phenomenal as native storytellers, and they actually preserve a form of keeping history and tradition and cosmology alive and well in the hearts and lives of those who hear them, and an amazing tradition that has gone out of popularity since we had textbooks, which, you know, is a whole other ball of wax I can get into at some point when I have my soapbox handy. But in the meantime, Mark has an amazing show scheduled for you tonight, a fantastic guest, and I'm very excited to hear all of it.
Okay, well, that fits in perfectly with the concept of censorship that we're going to get into tonight, plus the other censorship I have to deal with, like, this is not a forum to make the girls giggle and no more of the guests showing up naked, but, we'll work on that topic for later shows. But I grew up watching all those Chilly Billy Cardille Chiller Theater shows out of Pittsburgh, and all the other late monster shows, and I love the Charlton Heston trilogy of futuristic apocalyptic movies like Planet of the Apes and Omega Man, Soylent Green. And by the time I got to high school, we read Fahrenheit 451 and of course 1984, and read Brave New World and A Clockwork Orange on my own, and watched Red Dawn, Shaun of the Dead, Idiocracy. So it's like all those movies and books focus on the elites who put them in place to control the masses, and there's the exciting story of the resistance movement. And these are not just fictionalized theories. We still deal with them today. It's, we hear all about the deep state and AOC and her implausible Green New Deal, and the Swedish Greta, and do we really believe a 16-year-old is proficient enough in science to make the world change to fit her conclusions, or is she just being coached by those with an agenda if the new Green Deal is implemented, how will Greta fly back to Sweden, or is flying just for the elites? You can also look at, as it seems like the Amendment 6 of the Bill of Rights is suspended in favor of testimony of some undisclosed whistleblower. Was there a cabal behind Epstein's sudden death? Why was no plane found at Shanksville, or plane parts found at Shanksville? So why do some of us believe these illusions, and what is the agenda of those who design these events? Is it a coincidence that today is Election Day and Guy Fawkes Day, and we have Dina Rae making her debut on Nightlight? And is that part of my ingenious scheduling, or just a coincidence, or is there a man behind Nightlight's curtain? So Dina Rae is the author of Crowns and Cabals. It's a wonderful novel that explores that humanity has hope despite the dark forces of the elites. Crown and Cabals has the merits to stand shoulder to shoulder with the apocalyptic masterpieces. And so, just wanted to welcome Dina. How are you tonight?
Wow, that's quite the intro. Thank you again, Mark and Barbara, for having me on your show. I'm honored to be a guest, and I know you guys produce a wonderful radio program that's entertaining and educational, and always topical. I'm honored again to be a guest, and I am a New World Order conspiracy theorist, and my latest book is about exactly that. I believe that we are headed in a globalist direction, and New World Order is, of course, the ultimate goal of the inner circle, and there are all of the things that go with that: population control, censorship, as you previously mentioned. We're going to get rid of property ownership, and we're going to get rid of religion. We're going to get rid of gun ownership. There's so many things we're going to get rid of in favor of this small ruling class finally getting to play kings and queens of the world.
Okay. So let's, we have 2 hours to cover all that. So let's look at how you open your novel, and we are going from the America that it's pretty. It's set in a not too distant future, and most of the novel is set during the transitional period from the America we know today to the New World Order.
Yeah.
Let's get started on this nuclear annihilation that wipes out about a third of the population. That 1/3 does fit in later into your novel, and it goes back to Paradise Lost and the Bible as well.
Well, you're absolutely right, Mark. We currently have 7.53 billion people on this earth, and with no population control, with no mass graves, no mass deaths, we will have, conservatively, we will have 10 billion people on this earth by 2050, which is unsustainable. And I'm not a scientist. I'm getting this information from scientists. So this is just researched information. So as you've already mentioned, we've got AOC popping up with how are we going to sustain the globe? Well, at 10 billion people, we can't, unless we're going to drastically change our lifestyle, which is possible. But right away you're going to tell the masses that they got to eat bug powder while you're sitting there eating a steak and lobster dinner. That's not going to go over too well, I would say, with most of the world. So it is possible to sustain 10 billion people, but the way especially the rich countries live, especially America lives, it's not going to happen. So how are we going to get rid of billions of people? In my book, I use nuclear war. Other people believe that there'll be an airborne virus. Other people believe that there'll be some kind of weird disease that nobody can cure. There's all kinds of theories on how to get rid of a third of the world. But I used, for the purposes of fiction, nuclear war, because we've got many countries at this point in time who have the weapons. Some are making the weapons. And all it takes is one jerk to press the button and, kaboom. We can just start wiping each other out city by city. So I chose nuclear devastation because it's the fastest. Illnesses take a while, and there could always be some kind of hero doctor who could figure out a solution. So I just, chose the war route. And if you look at the news, we have these skirmishes all over the world that really don't make a whole lot of sense why we're involved in the first place. So to have a phony war take place through our proxies, to me, politically makes the most sense on how to wipe each other out. And of course, this would be very strategical. We're not going to wipe out Texas, for example, because Texas has a lot of oil. And we're not going to wipe out the diamond mines of Africa because, well, they have a lot of diamonds, and so forth. So all of the countries that don't have any natural resources would be highest on the list and the easiest to destroy. So, and of course, impoverished countries as well. People uneducated with no skills, with no natural resources, well, they're sitting ducks. So that is how I open up the book, and we've got America left, and America is always, to me, as an American, kind of special because we don't have this lengthy history of kings and queens. We naively think that us common folk can run a country. We can pick who we want to lead us, and we're a melting pot. We can get along with every race and religion in the world, and it makes us a better country. And this whole optimistic viewpoint that we all grew up with is what makes us our history so much more unique. So after nuclear devastation hits, well, we've got the UN, which I believe this is although this is a fictional novel, I want to strongly suggest that the UN is much more than it seems. To me, it's a skeletal government that has an army. I don't think a lot of people realize it, but the UN has an army. That's kind of weird right there. They have their own military. Of course, their soldiers are picked from other countries. They're all, melded together. But nonetheless, they're a government that is kind of running things, especially with the rich people, or the rich countries of this world. And once we've got nuclear devastation and all of the leaders are wiped out, who do we turn to? We turn to the UN, as I believe what its true purpose of initially being set up. So I could go into the UN. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just wanted to stay on that topic because you do include them as the ones who are implementing the New World Order, and then they have their peacekeepers, really there to control the population and keep everyone in compliance with their drones and monitoring devices and implementing and making sure that people are microchipped.
Yes. That's a huge part of New World Order, this whole microchipping, because that's the ultimate control. When you can locate someone's whereabouts and you can listen in to what they're saying, and you can know exactly what kind of blood they have, what kind of organs they have medically, what's in their bank account. I mean, we could go on and on about the power of the microchip, and a lot of companies are already incorporating that. One right in Wisconsin, and one in Europe, in Sweden and Norway. This is becoming a thing, and the scary part is the citizens like the microchip. They find it real easy. They could just clock into work. They could just withdraw some cash. They can order something real easily at the Starbucks. They're not really seeing what they're giving up in return for that easy way of clocking in and buying things. So I hope that this does not catch on, but I fear that it will. So microchipping is a big one. So you have to, of course, control the people who aren't dead after a mass population control takes place. And the book also mentions how people will be ranked by their usefulness. They'll have a useful factor. And just like Hitler, of course. We've got to brainwash them with education. We got to brainwash the new ones with education, because if they get ideas, then that's going to rock the boat. And we're going to have, like certain countries, especially the Asian countries, we're going to sort out what they're seemingly good at 5 years old too. It's not going to be like America, where you can figure out what you want to do with your life when you're 18 and you're out of high school. It's, you show an aptitude for computers. You're going to go into computers. All of this is going to be decided for you. You don't have that kind of freedom like we do now. And that's fine, because your existence is for the good of the government. It's not for the good of your life. And that's kind of a theme to me of New World Order. It's kind of like communism. Yes, exactly. Your needs come second. The government's needs come first. And of course, my heroes see the writing on the wall with all of this, and they've already figured out how to get the microchip out of themselves, and and they take it with them to work, but then they leave it at home when they want to do something and they don't want to be tracked. And already on a smaller scale, a less dramatic scale, I think we can all agree that if we leave our phones at home, well, then, Apple or whoever, whatever phone company you use doesn't know where you are if you leave your phone at home. Or if you, do you ever notice that if you've got your phone in your pocket and you're talking with someone about maybe going to dinner at whatever, blah, blah, blah's steakhouse or blah, blah, blah's Mexican restaurant, and then there pops up an ad for that chain of restaurant on your Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So your phone is listening to you. So we've already got, yeah, I'm sorry.
And you see it on, like Amazon. Hey, you look at, you might look at a CD to, what CD's that song on, and then all of a sudden you start getting ads for the whole person's catalog. They're watching you. It's just all part of the consumer culture.
Right. So in a sense, we've already are undergoing this whole, we're already kind of being microchipped, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but in a more businessy consumer type of way. I think it's going to go much farther, and I wouldn't be already. We found out in 2016 that Facebook with that what was that I want to say catalytic analytics something. Cal Atlantic Analytics. I can't remember the name of that company that they subcontracted with.
Cambridge.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was
Cambridge Analytics.
Company.
Yes,
okay.
Cambridge. You're right. And we've already found out that if we liked somebody's post about a specific candidate, they were tracking that information and selling it, of course, to different political candidates for their campaigns. So we're already giving away our privacy to at every level. Not to get too much on a soapbox, but one of my pet peeves is this Alexa and Echo things. I mean, this is even worse than your phone. They're sitting in your house, and you're to talk to them, and it's supposed to grant you your every wish. Oh, Amazon, order me more of this, or play this song, or switch the channel, or whatever you want to tell it. Well, it's also listening to you argue with your husband. It's also listening to you talk to your bank. I mean, it's listening to you all the time, and people are paying for a company to listen to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me why you would surrender every private moment of your life to a major corporation like that. But we are doing it. So again, some people, when the New World Order hits, they probably wouldn't even notice. But other people are going to say, hey, wait a minute, this ain't right.
And I think that you do a really interesting job of having your characters be the names of each chapter, and you get just say Jaxie, how she has some kind of experience dealing with NWO for that chapter, and it reveals how each person is impacted by the implementation of the one world government, and the whole book's set up like that. It's pretty much like the same technique used in Dracula.
That's a great book.
What was your intention of structuring your novel to be in that kind of format?
Well, I think when you're titling the chapters after the characters and then you're using first-person perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving the reader more insight of what's going on in their heads, and they can feel closer to the characters and closer to the storyline. Where I've written in first person, third person, I've done all of them, but I like writing in first person the best, because now you're putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, so to speak, while you're writing, and while you're reading, you're putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And I think we need to do that more as a society. We need to, get inside each other's heads. What could we be thinking? What could be bothering us? What's going to motivate us to risk everything for something that's righteous? What makes us tick, so to speak? And that is why I chose to set it up that way. I was trying to make it more interesting to read about. And I'd also want to put in, a lot of people aren't sure what New World Order is. So just to clarify, there's different kinds of versions of it. My version is about a Christian Judeo religious version, that one day we're going to have an inner circle, and of that inner circle, an evil being such as the Antichrist is going to rise as the leader. And that's in the Bible, in quite a few chapters. It's biblical prophecy. That is my version. Now, there are other versions that I do want to point out. Some people believe that New World Order is going to happen when the inner circle finally reveals the aliens that have been waiting for the right moment to take over Earth. So there's the alien angle. And then there's, of course, the anti-Semitic angle. There's a lot of people who think that all of the, like the Hitler crowd, that think the Jewish bankers are going to, take over the world. That is definitely not the angle that I'm going for. And as you read the book, I'm sure you know that. But I do want to bring out, there are different versions, and some of the versions blend together. Mine is specifically the Christian version. But I'm certainly not the first person to write about New World Order. It's been written about, you've already alluded to Aldous Huxley and George Orwell, but there's also H.G. Wells, who wrote a book called New World Order in 1940. So this has been going on for decades. And Pat Robertson of the Christian Right very famously wrote another book in the 90s about New World Order. So this has been something that the Fringe has been talking about for a long time. And I think as we get closer and closer to globalization, the more it seems to ring true.
And this today is we're actually only like a couple days off of the anniversary of the usurpation of the New World Order. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well about the timing of having you as our guest tonight. But your novel's set in like 2043. Is that right? 2045.
Yeah.
And earlier in the book, you have a statement about the agendas and resolutions were drafted decades ago. Okay, so that decades ago, okay, maybe these agendas were created in like the 1990s, maybe around this time. That like sounds a little bit like that Agenda 21 that's been discussed for a while, but what do we really know about it other than they're trying to get us all to live in the FEMA trailers and all this kind of stuff that sounds like it would be. It fits in with the X-Files, but there's so much of the X-Files that's actually telling you what's really going on. So before the novel
Mark,
takes
you're
place.
Hitting the nail. You're hitting the nail right on the head. Agenda 21 was drafted in 1992, and the 21 stands for the 21st century, and it was drafted by George Bush the Elder, and he famously said, as I know you and I have talked before, he famously talked about New World Order.
Yeah, and what was it? That was a State of the Union address, is that right?
Yes, and yes, absolutely, it was State of the Union address, and he got together with all the other world leaders that belonged to the UN at the time in 1992. And for the first time, the UN went a step farther out of their supposed peacekeeping role and took on a globalized plan on what we're going to do for the world. So, again, this would seem like an act of aggression had the news reported on it, but not a peep. It was pretty much crickets. This is something that, a dork and a geek like me would have to research about to get information, because it's not mentioned on the mainstream news. So, again, like you're saying, it's, a little bit about this, a little bit about that. Well, there's a reason why you don't know everything about Agenda 21. It's because the mainstream media won't report on it. And, real quick, Agenda 21 was the beginning, and they supposedly had a goal about the environment. They had a goal about education. They had a goal about poverty. They had a goal about coming together as a world with different kinds of funds and military, that kind of thing. And it was, kind of vague. And then they had 5 years later they liked the idea of coming together for power. 5 years later, they had another one. It's called Agenda 21 plus 5. And then 10 years later, they had another one. It was called Agenda 21 plus 10. And then Then we had Agenda 2030 in 2012. That replaced Agenda 21, and that's when things really got cooking, and they came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. So 2012, Obama was president at this point, so he, of course, was much involved. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to bore you or your listener with all 17 of those goals, but one of those goals is about the Green New Deal. So everyone's like, oh, AOC invented this whole idea of green. No. AOC ripped it off of the UN's website. She didn't invent anything. She is a puppet who's completely reading off of the UN script for this Green New Deal. I mean, this is not her deal. This is the UN's deal, and she's a plant, plain and simple. Her entire agenda with this Green New Deal is, completely a UN move. If we globalize and, who doesn't want to save the planet? Who doesn't?
Right.
Excuse me. Who wants to live in who wants a dirty ocean? Who wants to see those poor animals, die with plastic wrapped around their faces and all of that? Nobody. So if you can scare people into thinking that this is a major problem, they're going to come together and they're going to willingly be taxed up the wazoo to pay for this supposed, problem. And that's one way we can start getting on the same page as everything, as the world. So, I believe in I think some of the environmental stuff, I'm not a scientist, but some of the environmental stuff definitely makes sense. But the lengths that she has taken are ridiculous. There's the world's going to end in 10 years? Well, the world might end in 10 years, but it's not because of litter or because of our carbon footprints or any of that. It might end because we have a nuclear war, but what she's saying, I don't agree with, and I know that she's taking it from the UN. So a couple other things about the UN's goals for 2030. They don't want any poverty. Well, okay, who wants poverty? Who wants to see, people suffer? Well, keep in mind, how do you get people from being poor? Well, you take from people who have something, like, not that I'm rich, not saying that other people in my neighborhood are rich, but compared to somebody in India or somebody in South America, well, we live very nicely here, and I think you'd agree with that. And
that's a fair statement.
Yeah, not every American is doing all that great, but my middle class lifestyle would be like living like a king if I was living in Calcutta or something like that. So to end poverty, this is where you might hear some politicians talk about redistribution of wealth. Well, that's where, and social justice, that's where it's coming from. It's coming from the UN. Our politicians are acting like these ideas that they have are their own ideas. They're not. They're ripped straight out of the UN's agendas. So the UN makes these agendas. They can't be law because too many nations are involved, but they're suggestions. And all of the politicians around the world are taking these suggestions and they're making them into legislation. That's what's going on now. And whether you agree with these ideas or not, that's the direction the world is trying to go in. And every now and then you get a Trump who is a disruptor. Or I can't remember the new prime minister in England. I can't remember that guy. He just got in. He looks kind of like Trump. He's got blonde hair and.
Is that the Boris?
Yes. Boris.
I forget
yes,
his last
right,
name.
Yeah. He got in because Britain doesn't want to go in this UN direction. They don't want to even go in the EU direction. They want out. They want to be their own country. And they voted on that
Brexit
3 years
thing.
ago. And, well, they didn't exit anything. They're still stuck in the EU. So, again, and the elite are touting these goals that don't really belong to the people of the country. They belong to the UN. I don't think anybody realizes the power that the UN has. And as I've mentioned in my book, this is all strategically given to the UN to build them up for when the takeover comes, to be our standing government, our standing military, and start running things. Another thing. This is another thing in the agenda. Good health and well-being. Healthcare, universal healthcare. Now, I know you and I have talked about that. I don't know what the answer is for healthcare. Obviously, what we have doesn't work very well. But universal healthcare, I don't know. I mean, here, the healthcare system that we got, you have the potential of going broke. The healthcare system that is universal, that Warren, for example, wants to implement at 53 trillion, or was it billion or trillion?
It was,
can't remember.
It's something like $50 trillion over the next 10 years.
Well, that one we will go broke. So one, we have the potential to go broke. One, we will for sure go broke. So both aren't really working too well. But if you look at what the UN proposes, they want universal health care for the world. For the world. Now, who's going to pay for that? The people in Calcutta don't have any money. So the countries that have money, where do you think that's going to go if this is implemented? Again, we're back to no poverty, redistribution of wealth. So New World Order might be a good thing if you're in Calcutta, or you're in Buenos Aires, or you're in another city that's not doing too well. But it's not a good thing if you're in, Main Street America. So I do try to put that, in the book, that there are two sides to this coin, and some people will be better off. Some people will be dead because their town or their country is a target, and some people will lose everything. Another thing, another sustainable goal, real quick. This really hits a nerve with me, is this education. Well, what does quality education mean? Does it mean echoing somebody else's ideas, like a Green New Deal?
That's
or
a good
does
point.
it mean
critical thinking?
Yeah, what is a yeah, exactly. It should be critical thinking, but is it brainwashing or is it critical thinking? You're absolutely right. Another one, let me throw in one more for you. Gender equality. Okay, they're not talking about equality between men and women. They're talking again about this whole transgender, there's so many genders I can't even tell you all of them. I'm not even sure. So I was talking with a lady at my work, and her daughter went to it's called Furry Friends. It's some organization where people don't believe that they're a man or a woman gender. They believe they're an animal. And they have a convention every year in Chicago. I don't know if you've heard of this, but that's where we're going.
I'm not on their mailing list.
Well, that's where this is going. I mean, why limit ourselves to being a man or a woman or a little bit of both? We could become part dog, or we could become part lion, or we can go on and on with this. That's part of it. anyway, there's a lot more to it. So we've got this Agenda 2030, but wait, they had another meeting, and now there's an Agenda 2050. And guess who wrote Agenda 2050? Or I'm sorry, I take that back. It's called Vision 2050.
Is that part of the UN?
No, the UN didn't even write this one. 29 global companies wrote Vision 2050. So now the cards are really starting to show. So who's running things? Well, again, our biggest companies in the world, as I think we all suspected anyway. So, sorry, I'm going to keep babbling on about different kinds of agendas, but I find the UN and the stuff that they're up to, and the fact that it's not reported on mainstream media, astounding.
You know, one of the points that I think everyone in the audience, recognizes from 1984 is the doublespeak with the terminology, and and you've used that phrase sustainability. And I've wondered about that too. You see it on like pizza boxes. This box is made from sustainable forests, and talk about sustainable food supplies. What does sustainable mean in this term? It just seems like it's a code word for some. Like there's
straight.
Something deeper than keeping it going.
You're right. Mark, you're 100% right. It is a covert word. It's straight from these UN agendas. Sustainable Development Goals. That's what the UN calls these goals that I've been rattling on about. They call them SDGs for short, Sustainable Development Goals. That is their speak. That is their double talk, their double speak. They have quite the captive marketeers that these heads of state in all these different countries are taking their terminology and utilizing it in their own legislation. That's globalization. They're trying to give us all the same language, so when the takeover begins, we're all speaking the same universal terms. We all know what sustainable means because it's used all over the world now. Instead of, I want this to last for a long time, or I want this to endure for a long time. There's so many different words we could use besides sustainable. But like you've alluded to, the entire world is using the only term sustainable. And if you set the language, you set the mindset. If you change the language, you change the mindset. And these people are very, very good at getting us to think a certain way. And if you're not paying attention, you're not picking up all of these little things that are around the bend that are about to come our way.
Okay, and we can keep talking about education as we go through the show. I just wanted, as we're kind of approaching the first end of the first hour, just wanted to ask, how did you get so interested in this topic? What really pulled you into analyzing what was going on in starting like 1992 with the invention of Agenda 21?
Well, right around that same time, I think a year prior, we had the Gulf War with Bush the Elder. Was it George H. Bush?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how old you are or your viewers are, but I was in college at that time, and it was also at that very exact moment in history we had the advent of the 24-hour news cycle. So that kind of was like like double trouble, so to speak. So we were watching CNN, I think was the first news channel that cycled 24 hours. So we were watching the news all day long, and I was in college. I had friends who were in the ROTC. They were nervous they might be sent to the Middle East. We were watching the news all the time. We didn't know what was going to happen. And we could, for the first time in history, we could watch the news all day long. We didn't have to wait till 6 o'clock. So I remember very vividly there was an ambassador, and I want to say her name was April. I can't remember her name, but she was one of Bush's ambassadors, and one of the newsmen had found out that she was instructed by Bush's administration to have a meeting with Saddam Hussein, and he asked her what would the United States do, because he believed that pipeline in Kuwait was his oil, if you remember the details of all this. And he said, what would the United States do if I took what I believe is mine? And she was instructed to say nothing. So this whole thing was a total setup, in other words. Now, and then when they wanted to, when the mainstream, or the only, I keep saying mainstream, when the only stream, when CNN reporters wanted to interview her, she had left the United States and went to Canada. She wouldn't even be interviewed. So Saddam Hussein, who's portrayed as the villain in all of this, asked our permission to invade Kuwait. We said we didn't care. We didn't have any interest in it. And then the minute he does it, we're attacking him. So to me, that's a setup. That's a setup. I guess the real question is, well, why did we want a reason to go attack Saddam Hussein? That to me is the real question and all that. And a conspiracy was born, and as for me, a conspiracy theorist was born. So at that moment in time, I just started wondering about what the motives behind some of our government's actions. And so was the media at that time. At that time in history, we had real reporters. We had they were really trying to crack a lot of these stories. You're not finding that so much anymore. So that, of course. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, there was also at that time, the UN hearings about why America needs to go to war, and they trot out Colonel Colin Powell to discuss the WMDs and the yellow cake, and he was. You could tell it was a not very convincing performance, and they still never found any. It was just.
That was the second one.
Yeah, and the whole it was that whole since the first invasion of Kuwait up until now, it's been almost a 30-year-long war. Nothing's really been accomplished.
And just to further tack on to that conspiracy theory, the real, I have no proof of this. This is just, kind of internet stuff, but it certainly makes a lot of sense. Saddam Hussein was ticked off at us. And Saddam Hussein had talked about trading oil off of the U.S. dollar. That was his crime. He wanted to sell his oil on a different currency. That's that's what a lot of people think his big sin was. It wasn't that he was a brutal dictator or he murders people, all of that. That wasn't it. We could have cared less about all that. It was he was going to sell his oil on a different currency. Now, what currency that is, I don't know, but that makes a lot of sense. And then every time we get in the Middle East, it's because someone's threatening to trade oil that on their currency or European or the Europe's currency or Russian's currency, any currency that's not ours. So I'm wondering if there's a lot of truth to that, because that certainly makes a lot more sense than, we just want democracy and all this other crap that we have to listen to. Well, some countries aren't going to ever be democratic. And, whatever works. Every culture is different. You can't have democracy everywhere. You have different cultures who can't handle it. And we know that. So, to me, that kind of stuff is, I don't buy it. There's something more going on. And usually, if you follow the money, that seems to give you your answer.
Yeah, well, there was all the oil, and that was, that was, the reason why we were in trying to save Kuwait, and since then, we've invented fracking, and we're still, if we're energy independent now with fracking, why hasn't prices come down, and we're still getting oil from the Middle East, and the frack pads are still after they're done, they're being run by solar panels. So, let's see. So solar panels work, but we're still dependent on fossil fuels. This isn't making any sense.
I know, and fossil fuels cause supposedly carbon footprints. So I don't know. I'm with you, Mark. Why is oil so? Why do we care so much about oil if it's doing nothing but leaving a carbon footprint that's going to wreck our environment? Well, again, the whole thing kind of goes in circles, and I think someone was on the news talking about how if you know how a lot of these rich people don't even want to fly commercial. They can't even fly first class on a commercial plane. They have to get their own jet and go to their meeting wherever their meeting is. Mm-hmm. Well, they're saying that one plane trip from New York to Europe, one way, is the same amount of gas that a regular person uses a year in their car. That's a one-way trip from New York to Europe is leaves as much of a carbon footprint as a year of my gas. So where's the real problem?
But that's
real problem. They're
the elite who are doing important stuff, though. that's okay, isn't it?
Well, why can't they fly first class on a commercial jet? Wouldn't that be less of a carbon footprint? Why can't they carpool? They all live in New York anyway. Why, if 10 of them are going to a meeting, why can't 10 of them get on a private jet? I mean, there's so many ways to act like you give a rat's, and none of them are doing that. They're just complaining about how we all need to get battery cars, how we all got to quit eating beef, how we got to all, we're living in too much square footage, how we need to get solar panels. I mean, on and on and on. They're droning on and on and on. Yet their lifestyle is so wasteful compared to everybody else's. So I'm just, trying to get a measuring stick going on here, and it's no contest.
Okay, so we're getting kind of sidetracked there with some sarcasm. We might want to reel ourselves back in and get back to your book. But since we are talking about the global elites, it is based.
The inner circle.
The inner circle. Your work does have a biblical connection, mainly to the Book of Revelation, and quite a few other ones. But you do draw heavily from the Book of Revelation. You do have this party that takes place over chapters 33 and 34, and is it any? Is that designed that 33 is when the party starts? This nefarious party, is that some kind of Masonic number connection,
yep.
Secret society type thing you're hinting about?
Yeah. Yep, you're exactly right. 33
I was just kind of
is.
Guessing.
Oh no, you're 100% right. 33 is, of course, the highest level of Freemason that one can achieve. Your Albert Pikes of the world. I'm going to guess George Washington was probably up there as well, as most of our presidents. And those are your people in the highest positions within the Freemason chapters. And some people think that they're behind a lot of this New World Order. Some people think that they're related to the Illuminati group. Again, I'm hinting about all of that in the book as well.
It is a really well done couple chapters about building the suspense to reveal what the inner circle people are all about, and it does sound like something almost like out of Rosemary's Baby, but it is rooted in what we know of practices from the Phoenicians. It's mentioned in like the Moloch materials mentioned in Paradise Lost. So you get the Aleister Crowley influence there. drugging the patrons. What a nice legacy he left. So you have a lot of research going towards making this scene. Can you tell us a little bit about those couple chapters?
Sure, absolutely. And just real quick to just to piggyback on how it's 33. 33 is also the parallel to Mount Hermon, and I know you and Barbara are big Nephilim fans. You're very
the
well-versed.
Giants,
So that's another tie-in as well. With Mount Hermon, and that's supposedly where the Nephilim landed, and again 33. So we've got 33 shows up all the time in our biblical references, in mythology, in Freemasonry. So that is of course significant. In my book, it's of course got some significance, but the party that you're talking about is definitely part of an ancient ritual. With Molech is famous for children's sacrifices. A lot of people would give their firstborn to Molech as a offering. And it was supposed to ward their next children away from disease and death and all of that. So Molech is one of those gods in the Bible that the people are told not to worship. And obviously they do anyway, because for some reason Molech is, they think, is a much stronger God than the one God that Christians worship today. And my contention is that Moloch is a sidekick of the devil per se, which is what this whole entire party is about. And the whole point of the party is to name who is going to be their leader of this new world order that has occurred. And they're trying to be democratic about it, and they vote on it. And they have to, vote on somebody who doesn't seem as monstrous as people suspect. And I don't want to give away the whole book, but the man who gets voted as the leader of this New World Order performs a gruesome ritual as his acceptance. And in tradition with the Roman Catholic Church, he is crowned a special kind of mitre crown that our Pope might wear. So there are links to Christian religion as well as demonic religion, as the two often mirror each other.
Okay. Well, and maybe we stop there. We don't want to give away some of the best parts of the book, but so the ancient legends that you were just more the nefarious legends that you were just talking about. You also draw from historic legends in association with the patriots. They're leading the resistance movement to the global elites. you're talking about, you reference several times Patrick Henry's "Give Me Liberty" or "Give Me Death" speech. Jesus was a leader of the resistance movement to the Roman foreign occupation of their homeland. Robin Hood and trying to stop King John's heavy taxation and all that. So, you have a really good balance of the evil role models and the good role models with the Patriots. Can you tell us, like, how much research were you doing for both groups of contrasting characters?
Well, you're absolutely right. I did name off famous people who were heroes, who were, let's be real. They were all motivated to vigilantism, so to speak, because of taxation, right? That's what motivates us. When we're taxed too much, we snap. And Guy Fawkes famously was another one. He's got that mask that you see everybody wear when they think that the government is abusive, the government is taxed too much, the government is this, the government that. And when we get upset about it, and we used to, this was the spirit of America. Lately, we've just been a bunch of pansies, and more taxes. Oh, okay. Yeah, we've been very complacent over the last several decades, I think, compared to how we started. And what will it take to get us back to that period of time, that patriot period of time, where we were we were fighters. We had a cause. We believed we were right about something, and we were ready to fight to the death. And we don't have that anymore. And now we go to wars that we don't even know why we're there. Everything has gotten so convoluted. And the heroes that I talked about, they were focused like a laser on their cause. And the heroes in my book are focused like a laser on their cause. And we don't have that anymore. Like you mentioned earlier, we've been in the Middle East forever. Well, nobody even knows why. We can't do that. It's making us tired. It's making us disorientated. We've got to start focusing again on what's important. And I think that is where a lot of my research comes from. And I'm always a fan of the underdog. That's just me. I love reading about historical figures who somehow manage to get something done, whether they're in myths, legends, whether they're real. I just find that kind of character fascinating.
Okay, and your patriots are actually the millennials who were born, at the turn of the millennium. They're about 20
like
now.
The early 2000s.
Yeah, and by the time the action of your book takes place, they're in the 30, 40 age range. Do you think that with their they've been heavily criticized for being self-absorbed with the technology, but they're also very proficient at it. Do you really think that they do offer the kind of fortitude that was similar that we saw with Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, those Patrick Henry?
Well, that's a great question. Those men obviously were very brave. They had very brave military skills. They were good with whatever weapon they had access to. They were soldiers, where our new kind of vigilante soldier, they don't have to be brave. They don't have to be trained in weapons. They have to know computers, though. That is everything in this day and age. Even the weapons, as I brought it into the storyline, and that was research too. I didn't just, make up a bunch of weapons. I, got into what we have now, what they think that they're going to get down the road, that kind of thing. Our weapons are computers. So a hero in today's literature has to be computer proficient, number one, more than anything. And yes, you're right, millennials are self-absorbed, a lot of them, with technology. But they're also, my day job, I'm a high school teacher, so I do have some experience with teenagers. They're also medicated for everything.
Dina, there are a number of websites out there that are looking at lots of different causes for the manipulation that is going on in the world today, and it is rather frightening to not be able to put a finger on it, and because we don't know where it's coming from. We look at the Bilderberg Group, we look at the Bohemian Club, we look at the Illuminati, we look at all sorts of names of groups. But do you have an inkling as to where this is coming from?
Well, I think sure, certainly all of those have contributed to this globalization. But I think a lot of these billionaires, like George Soros, for example, Jeff Bezos, I think these billionaires are getting together, and I think they own a lot of our politicians. I think they're making policy for the UN and other types of governments in place.
Do you think they have a God complex? Like, I'm so rich, I should be able to tell people what to do?
Absolutely. Just today I'm watching the news, and George Soros has spent millions of dollars in this country to get certain people elected in our judicial system. So he's successful. He's funding dozens of campaigns across the country, and he's getting to handpick who he wants as prosecutors. So he does have a God complex, and he fundamentally wants to change our judicial system in this country. Who knows what else he's got, what other, quasi political pacts that he's got going. But right now he's working on prosecutors. He just got one elected today in Fairfax, Virginia, as we're talking about Election Day. So what is the point of all this? Well, sure, to play God, but of course he has an agenda, and all of these politicians have one thing in common: they're very soft on crime. So what is he trying to do? It sounds like he's trying to overthrow the rules that we currently have in place.
Yeah, it is a little frightening. I mean, you look at things and you think, okay, they can do this because they hire protection and they have people protecting them all the time, and yet just recently they've been letting go people from prisons. It's, my jaw is dropping open.
Yeah.
300 here, 400 here. I mean, there's a reason that they're in jail. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they're in jail, and why are we letting them out? Can we just not afford to keep them there? Is there a reason they're being let out? Nobody's given me any answer to that one.
Barbara, I don't understand it either. Again, to me, the whole thing of this is they want to overthrow what we've got here right now. They want to take over, and you put chaos out on the street, and you've got no rules in place, and everybody's doing whatever they want. You've got chaos, and chaos, of course, makes it easy to take over a political system. So I agree with you.
I mean,
and then there's that.
If there's absolutely no punishment for a crime, I mean, what's to stop people from? I mean, if they do a crime and then suddenly we empty out the jails, so what was the punishment these people got? They got a home run. They broke the law, and now they're back on the streets, and it's like no big deal. They'll just let us out again. It's a little scary.
Well, that Bernie Sanders wants people who are in prison, who aren't let free, that are still in prison, to be able to vote. So, I mean, how easy would that be to get elected? Oh, vote for me and I'll let you out of jail.
I think somebody in Virginia did let the prisoners vote last time, come to think of it. But, you know, it is really frightening what's happening to our system of government, because it does appear to be crumbling all over the place.
I go on. I'm sorry, Mark.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, you know, we were just talking about the basically the mob rules, where just anything goes in the streets, and I was just trying to bring out a point that you bring up in your book that really isn't covered in say, you know, some of the earlier apocalyptic masterpieces like 1984. Maybe Orwell just didn't think that things were going to get this bad, but you know, we can look at some of your characters are heavily drugged, and you know, part of your book is focusing on the pharmaceutical industry, and what a terrific job they did with the opioids in Appalachia. Boy, how about that? This science behind that situation, and you just basically ruined generations of Appalachia. Just really depopulated. My area, but is that in accordance with the Georgia Godstones?
Well, again, drugs are a form of population control. You can OD on them, or you can easily be controlled by them. So one of the two. And if you get somebody hooked on drugs, then you can control them. Now, I'm not sure what the Georgia Godstone is. If you please elaborate.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, they're it's like a little monument. It's kind of set up like Stonehenge, and has how to have a sustainable future, and there's something like 13 point? Barbara, does that sound right? There's like something like 13 recommendations of a sustainable future for humanity, and one is keeping the population below
500 something.
500 million people. So who's going to make that determination? Who's the elitist who's going to make that determination to implement a eugenics program?
Well, I don't want to offend your listeners or anything like that, but I mean, just look what's going on with abortion. We've gone from a first trimester abortion to a 6-month abortion to now a 9-month abortion. Why would you want to abort your kid at 9 months? What could the doctor tell you any differently than they couldn't tell you at the beginning of your pregnancy? And is this population control? Or the only thing that I can truly think of is, can you sell your fetus to a medical company for genetic research or for stem cells or something? Is that part of what's going on? Because if you don't want your baby at 9 months, well, why didn't you get the abortion at 3 months? Or why didn't you take birth control? Or why didn't you, so I guess we've already got our own ways of keeping the population down. We've got, drugs, we've got abortions, we've got urban cities full of gangbangers shooting each other up, and we're not doing anything about it. We're letting violent criminals out on the street to thin the herd, so to speak. So we have some things in place. I don't know what else is going to take place, but we're getting more and more mass shootings. I'm just wondering if all of this is related.
That's an interesting way to possibly connect all these dots, and then just to take what you're the example you're just talking about with the abortions. You can also look later in life at another very popular book that came out like 40 years ago, like Coma, and use the healthcare industry to just put people in comas and like harvest their organs and sell them. That's some pretty sick eugenic philosophy, but it's really not that far-fetched.
No, I agree 100% with you. There's these old folks' homes. It seems like the minute you run out of money, you end up getting MRSA or something like that, and then dying. We have a lot of things in place that I think thin our herd faster than maybe we would naturally go. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but there's just, I guess I'm not, I don't take anything at face value anymore. And I know you and I were talking about the medical industrial complex, and they're getting to be a very powerful racket.
Yeah, they are. They can basically do. They have your life in their hands, and they can do whatever they want, and they're still going to get their exorbitant fee, even if you die or the treatments don't work.
Yeah.
What doctor isn't making a lot of money?
Yeah. They make a ton of money. And even the physician's assistants and the nurses do pretty well.
And with Jaxie and Raphael, some of the heroes, the patriots from your book. You present them and their situation as, unarmed minority, other than having their cell phones and able to figure out how to remove the microchips, and just kind of starting off small against the elites with all the more effective and harmful gadgets. And you built these all these characters. You bring them all together, and you're developing like a profile of social psychology or group psychology. How are they going to all these people work together against a more powerful, the ruling class? I thought that was portrayed very realistically. How did you just look at how people behave in groups, or just look at like the founding fathers and read some social psychology books? How did you achieve that effect?
Well, I think as I mentioned in the book, and as anybody who studies New World Order, or just a plain old takeover, one of the first things that a inner circle or a new government or a new power structure needs to do to take control is to get rid of your guns. And I think that's why people get so upset whenever you have political candidate who, like Beto O'Rourke, who dropped out, wanted to take away your guns. And I think he even said I'm from Texas, so he makes the news a lot. And he said to a bunch of reporters, they said, well, how are you gonna take someone's guns away? And we'll have a government buyback. And then they go, okay, well, what if the person who has the guns doesn't show up for the buyback? Then what are you going to do? Oh, well, I'm going to have the military come to their house and take their guns. Well, that's what we all fear. This is, I think just a very basic American fear that someone's going to come into my home, like martial law, like I think Lincoln's the only president we ever had that installed a martial law. I hope he's the last, but right now he's the first and the last, but who knows how long that's going to go on. And the military has the right to go into your house and search it and take the gun and take your guns, take your weapons away. And I think that's just a huge fear, even for people who don't have guns. They don't quite like that idea. That's our Second Amendment. That our forefathers didn't write that as our First Amendment, or they wrote it as our Second Amendment, and it was that important to them. So you take something that makes everybody terrified, it unites them, I think. If you got a bunch of people scared about one thing, you're going to unite them into fast friends. And of course, in my book, my heroes figure out a way after they've gotten their weapons taken away. Not all of them had weapons, but some of them did. They're going to find a way to get them back, because that's the only fighting chance that you have. If you don't have any weapons, you can't put up a good fight. And not to beat a dead horse, but here in Texas, we had this thing maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe you heard of it. It was called Jade Helm.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that was a military drill to pretend to go around to houses and take people's guns away. Well, what do you think that caused? That caused a whole lot of chatter and a whole lot of talk and a whole lot of people who just immediately bonded together, because why would our military be practicing taking guns away? Well, because pretty soon they're going to do it for real, right? So just, that wasn't by where I live, but it was definitely a big topic of the news on Texas local news. So I think I got to know people I worked with a little better. I got to know people I lived by a little better. This was a point of contention with just about everybody. They did not like this military exercise. It represented a violation of our rights, and I tried to pass that instant camaraderie into the book. Again, I'm not a big gun advocate, but I'm a woman. I live with my husband. If I didn't live with my husband and I lived alone, I'd have a gun. How else could I defend myself? I have 2 daughters. When they move out, I'm going to take them to the gun range and we're going to practice. They're going to need something to defend themselves. If a single woman's living alone, she needs something to level the playing field. If a man breaks into the house, what other chance do you have? So I really believe in defending yourself. And if that right is taken away, well, the next step is, of course, takeover, because why else would anybody do that?
And I forgot about that Jade Helm thing. And I remember there was a lot of talk about it, and it was all over Facebook. Not much really. I think more was said than done. Do you think that
it worried people? It worried.
Like social media actually prevented an event like that from happening?
You might be right, because it caused such a fuss. It was supposed to be on the down low, but because media got wind of it, everybody got wind of it, for that matter. And then FEMA at the same time, we had FEMA buying up all kinds of bullets. If you remember, that was happening at the same exact time. So this kind of caused a panic, and maybe it was the NRA who went on defense, and I don't really know how we got flooded with all this kind of information, but the end result was very clear. If you're going to continue on with these kinds of military trainings, then we're going to vote for somebody who will not have it, and it's going to end here and now. And the message was very clear, and it, at least for the time being, has stopped.
Okay. I just, we're back to your characters who are later 30s, early 40s would have probably participated in the making other people wear the jade helm thing, when they were in their teen years. So you're kind of tracing the growth of awareness of what technology could do for the millennials throughout crowns and cabals.
Absolutely. It's technology is everything. As of right now, I mean, just in the business world, the stocks that do the best are your tech stocks. The people who are the most needed in business today are your technology skilled workers. If you don't, our heroes of the future are going to have to really be tech geeks in every way. And I would go as far as say that I bet you our top military men and women know a lot about technology, because I'm sure those drones are not easy to work. I'm sure the satellites aren't all that easy to work. I'm sure there's a lot of knowledge that go into these kinds of gadgets, and we got to take that into consideration, that if you're going to get rid of the population, if you're going to get rid of a third of the population and have the useful ones left, well, the useful ones might be too useful. They might be useful for themselves, because the common folk of today and, of course, the future are a heck of a lot more sophisticated, a heck of a lot more educated, a heck of a lot more skilled than the common folk of any other generation prior. So, New World Order is kind of a double-edged sword. You need these tech geeks to help run the world, yet they could easily stab you in the back too, because they might know more than you.
Dina, we have 8 minutes or so left for the show, barring another lightning strike nearby. But I do want to touch on another interesting contrast that you present, and we need to give you time to plug any of your where to get your books and websites or anything like that. But you have the character George, who is Raphael's grandfather, and you also are looking at the crowns from in the title of your work that goes back to Egyptian, Sumerian antiquity, and how many generations have worn these crowns, and there's also been you can see the destruction that some of these same cultures have done just recently about blowing up statues, destroying statues. We had that in 1984 with Winston Smith talking in the Speak Rights to make history conform to what how Big Brother wanted it, and there is that balance between learning from the older generation and just obliterating what you don't like. Where can we find a balance in there, or should we not tear down the Confederate statues?
Well, I mean, these are just great questions for today's world. We've got ISIS destroying museums because they want to rewrite their history. We, hundreds of years ago, we had the Spanish conquistadors destroying all of the all of the relics from South America. So we didn't learn a lot about that world. We had the Romans destroy and burn down the museum, or the library in Alexandria. I mean, can you imagine what was in that library? This is a theme in history. Right now in history, we've got Germany excluding about 9/10 of what happened in World War II in their history books, which I don't know if people realize that. Two of my other books, bestseller and the sequel, which are about Hitler's link with aliens, I cannot sell them in Germany because there's a swastika on the cover, and they don't want to go there. They don't want anything that is a negative remembrance of Hitler. So, I mean, Germany's supposed to be a free nation. Well, they're censoring up a storm, and I know UK has a lot of books that they won't even sell because they could cause, again, we're talking about censorship, and all of this is in the name of forgetting aspects of history, and in some cases just downright rewriting history. So I put that in my book. I put that theme in my book for a lot of reasons because, okay, I'm originally from Chicago, so I'm a Yankee. There's no Confederate statues at all in Chicago. There's no Confederate flags. If someone has that kind of stuff, they would certainly have it privately because you would get your butt kicked like no tomorrow if you went around on a pickup truck with a Confederate flag hanging out your window. And if there was a statue of Jefferson Davis at a park, well, you wouldn't need to hire anybody to take down that statue because it would be destroyed by the people because it's, such an offensive piece of art. But with that being said, now I live in the South, and that's a whole different culture. We've got, people whose families have been here for hundreds of years, and like it or not, their family might have fought in the Civil War. Their family might have, we don't get to, when we're summoned to a war, we don't get to always pick what side we're going to be on. We have to be in the region that we're in, and on that level, you've got to respect that this was part of history. This was part of the Southern culture. And, do I find Confederate statue offensive? Yeah, I do. To me, it's a symbol of hate. But if I'm a Southerner and that was part of my ancestry, and maybe I have a Confederate great-great-great-grandfather, and I've got the uniform and all of that, and well, you gotta be mindful of that and leave it up. I know that they're talking about. I was in New Orleans, and they're talking about tearing down the Andrew Jackson statue right there in the square, and that's such a beautiful. Square. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful area, and Andrew Jackson, for his time, he might not have been a good person in the long run, but for his time, that's what our soldiers did. They killed Indians, okay, like it or not, and that's part of our history. And that's what makes us a great country. We can handle it. I think we can handle it. We can handle the black eyes that we have for history, and we can celebrate the good stuff. And I would hate to see political correctness get the better of our architecture, of our art, of our history, all of it. I would just hate that. That would be worse than the offense a Confederate statue might cause, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel, but
we'll have to talk about that on the next show. We are just about out of time, and I just want to thank you, Dina, for being our guest. Barbara, do you want to step in and wrap things up, and we'll see everyone next Monday?
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you sharing your time with us. This will go up on YouTube sometime tomorrow. And if you like it and like listening to the other shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Other than that, have a great night, and we will see you next week. Good night now.